Let's talk about the companies which are listed on the Nigerian Association of Securities Dealers Over-the-Counter Market, or the NASD OTC. They've joined Nigeria's first earnings reporting season in the new year 2022. The NASD OTC Plc is also reporting on its own activities for the year 2021 with an outlook on the new market year. Joining me live here in the studios for a conversation to this is the Chief Executive Officer of the NASD OTC Plc, Bola Ajomale. Sir, it's great to have you on our first conversation in the new year.
Excellent to be here.
Great. Thank you so much.
Excellent to have you.
Let's get this. Give me the highlights of the market for you on the over-the-counter market side for last year.
Last year was quite a watershed. It was quite an interesting year for us. Despite all the COVID, all the lockdowns and everything, it was quite an interesting year. We were able to trade, we tripled our trades on the previous year, but then again, 2020 was a particularly difficult year. Well, we tripled in trades in terms of volume, almost quadrupled in terms of value that was traded. Even though there's still small numbers, it was a significant amount of trade that went on. Partly enabled by the new technology we're using, partly enabled by the fact that we were trading NGX shares on the market for a period of time.
Oh, yes.
Those two made a significant difference. Made a difference in the number of players who were on the market as well. I think the number of players went up. We exceeded what we expected in terms of number of traders who were coming into the market. So we're hoping to ride on that momentum that we started last year and keep it going for this year.
Well, what's going to be different when you talk about the strategies and focus for new year? 2020 was a watershed, 2021 was better. Tell me about 2022.
2022, first thing is factories are going to open up again. They will open up again. It's, again, a pre-election year, so I think there's going to be a certain amount of expenditure that's going on. If that can be properly channeled into industry, then we're looking at resurging. I think Nigeria has come to recognize the absolute need to substitute imports. Right now, our balance of trade is particularly consistently in the negative. We need to change that narrative, and I think there are some concerted efforts at doing that. We're seeing FDIs and FPIs drying up as well. So again, the investments are going to come from within. What that means for us in NASD is that we should create an enabling, settling place for those companies that are being recapitalized, for the ones that are growing themselves into the new normal. We should create a platform for them, an avenue for them to be able to trade and get liquidity for their shareholders and for those new investors that are coming in. That we are doing, and this year we're going to roll out some new technology. DLT and blockchain is here to stay. So we will be going in that direction as well. So that's what the year is beginning to look like for us.
In terms of the companies listed on your market, the earnings of this year, are they coming up with some of the numbers seem to be already out?
We have seen one or two that are looking, especially in the consumer side, in the consumer goods side, we're seeing one or two that are looking healthy. I will not be disclosing their numbers or anything, but the ones that are public, we will be seeing, and I think we should be seeing some good numbers from a fair number of them. I think some companies, some industries also ran into difficulty, especially the hospitality industry and so on. So we expect that those ones will have a difficult return.
It looks like 2021 seemed to be a whole lot better for consumer goods companies. Yeah. Despite the shadows of 2020 virus into 2021?
Two reasons.
Looks like a bit of resilience there.
Yeah, well, two reasons. 2020 was a shock to all of us. March 2020, we did not expect that it was going to go on for 9 months. 2021, we got used to it, we'd worked around it, and I think we're particularly fortunate in Nigeria that it was not really as severe. Some blame sunlight. Some say, you know, it's all the medicine we took. Well, yeah, our genes or whatever. But it ended up not being as harsh as it was in other parts of the world, and so people slowly started going about their business. Even now, there's still a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of there've been modifications to our behavior, and as a result, those that will survive will, and some companies have had to shut down, unfortunately. But then again, that's just with the change in times. And I think...
So you think companies are beginning to bend around the corner, as it were, getting adjusted to the whole supply chain, global supply chain disruptions and all that?
If you notice, logistics was a very big thing last year. Moving goods around, moving things around, yes. Staying in one place and having them come to you rather than you going out was a very big thing last year. I think people have modified their behavior, modified their demand, their supply chains and channels. And I think we're beginning to see the results of those.
For those of you who are securities exchanges, how have you been able to make money? New listings, listing fees, and what have you? What's changing? What's the dynamics down there for a typical securities exchange?
Well, the exchanges run, I won't say parallel. Well, they run parallel, but they don't run exactly in the same manner. When you see an increase in listings on one exchange, it's likely that you'll see a reduction in listings. You either issue debt or equity a lot of the time, rather than issuing both. For an exchange like NASD, which is somewhere in the middle, we don't really live on too much on the listing side. We live more on the trading side. So one big listing makes a lot of difference to a listing, a large listing exchange. A lot of trade makes a difference to an OTC market. And that's where we stay, and that's where we play.
Some consumer goods names are listed on your exchange, on NASD OTC, and the price, huge.
Yes.
What's the attraction for listing on NASD OTC?
So NASD is not exactly a listing market. Its primary focus is not on listing and regulating the issuer. Its primary focus is on regulating the brokers and ensuring broker responsibility, and ensuring that there's transparency around your transaction and liquidity for your assets. That's really the first focus of NASD, as opposed to regulating the issuer. We have a Securities and Exchange Commission that regulates all public companies, and so we don't add another layer of regulation on that. What we're doing is we're enabling trade for those companies that have opted not to go and list anywhere else.
Yeah, but again, what's the attraction from some companies to jump from Exchange A to Exchange B, which is NASD OTC?
Well, we did see Double One PLC come into NASD last year. Part of the reason sometimes is they believe they would still be able to deliver value to their shareholders regardless of which market they're on, for as long as there's organized trade for their shareholders. Remember, quite a few of the companies that have gone into NGX went in there before NASD OTC came into being. And this is not removing anything from NGX. It is a great way to go, especially for the large investors, for the large investor class. But for a normal investor, I don't think a lot of them, normal retail investors, I don't think many of them are saying, I'm only going to buy securities that are on this market as opposed to on another market.
OTC market's really attractive, globally speaking. So, at least with retail investors and others, are we getting to that point with your exchange?
So yes, the first role we played was to create liquidity for those existing securities that had no domicile, they were not domiciled anywhere. That's the first phase of what we wanted to do, which we have done. And we have created that across so many securities, across so many companies, all of them, some large PLCs, some micro PLCs. Now, the next phase of it is then to go, and this is where we're reaching now, is then to go into the more innovative side of the market and create new markets for securities that haven't even existed yet. And that's where we're headed now.
Okay, so bringing something from the cloud.
Well, the cloud will be involved.
Okay,
certainly.
The cloud will be involved. There's always the cloud. Everybody's in the cloud is this. What's your outlook on the broader economy? And you were talking about that. It's an election year to an election year. So will anything change significantly as we move between 2022 and 2023 for you folks at NASD OTC?
We are positioning for an active year as opposed to positioning for a slow year. We think it will be an active year on the equity space. We think it will be an active year on the fintech space in terms of capital raising. We would like to see a lot of investing coming from within Nigeria. As a result, we're positioning for that as well, so that we can actually channel investments into the fintech space from within the country. We are looking forward to. We know that there's going to be a certain amount of inflation. We are hoping that the monetary policy rates will not change, monetary policy will not change significantly between now and at least the first half of the year, which would actually again stimulate the market, stimulate industry as well. If those happen, and those are hopes, of course, there's some things we're hoping will not happen as well. But if those come through, then we do have a very active market this year, and we're positioning for that.
Your annual meeting will be sometime a couple of months down the line.
Yes.
What should investors expect from your books?
They should expect, we have added value to our shareholders this year.
Yes.
We were able to quite comfortably, and so when it comes, it should. It will. We haven't finished our accounts. We haven't finished auditing our accounts yet.
Yeah. So it's a new year. So when policies such as the retention of fuel subsidies hit the market, what were you thinking about? How does that impact the marketplace?
Well, so the fuel subsidy is an interesting aspect because we had already been thinking a lot more inflation.
Oh.
We had been expecting, and that's a major thing for this economy. I mean, the higher the level of inflation, the more it impacts on your foreign exchange, on your parity. So we were getting a bit concerned about it, that it has now been pushed forward by another 18 months, the removal of the subsidy. It doesn't make our budget look as efficient as it could. But at the same time, I think it has created a certain amount of stability in the system.
Are companies worried?
Yes. Either way, they're worried. Any big change would worry people, either one way or the other. So companies are worried. Now, if you take a sample of 10, you will get 5 who would say it's a great thing and it's good to keep things stable, and you get another 5 saying it should be removed immediately. So it's a balance of what your perspective is.
Interesting. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this conversation with you. Again, do have a great evening. Bola Ajomale, the CEO at NASD OTC Plc.